All right, I want to ask you first about Brexit, because a group of European CEOs today got together and said, you know, as of one voice, that it would be a bad thing for Europe and a bad thing for European business. Do you feel the same way?
I think that when David Cameron opened the Pandora box of the referendum, he made a huge mistake, and we are seeing today the result of that mistake. I'm very much in favor of the UK inside Europe, provided that they are playing the game of the Union. And as of today, they are much more a little bit selfish, and this is breaking down the EU with a lot of people wanting each one to have a different status. So if the end result is that UK will have a very specific status and there is no EU because of them, I prefer that they go on their own, and it will be much worse for them than for the European Union.
So it's fine, Brexit, if you want a Brexit, leave
it's
the rest
not that
of us
I
alone?
want the Brexit. I prefer by far that they stay in, but with a full responsibility and being fully part of the European Union. The way they want to be part is 1 foot on an island, which is the British island, and another foot on the continent. This is not going to work.
It would be a little bit of a disaster for Publicis, though, right, if there was a Brexit, because...
No, not at all.
What about your European business? You would have to...
But this doesn't change anything.
Anything.
It will not change anything, and it will be much less of a disaster that everyone is thinking about the EU. EU is the largest economy in the world, and the UK is benefiting much more from the EU than the EU is benefiting from UK. So it will be much more difficult for the British to live without the EU than the rest.
Are you pitting yourself against some of your competitors taking this stance? Because we know that there are some major British businessmen, for example, that would much rather...
But I prefer, let's be clear, I prefer by far that they stay in. Mm-hmm. But all this battle and the fact that there is all this discussion and they don't want to be fully in, etc., and they want something which is very specific to my measure. So this is something which is not going to work. It's not going to build a union. And if you think 1 minute about what EU is all about, it is a European Union. So it is united. And if we are not united, it's much better that everyone goes on its own.
So let's look at some of the market ramifications, because right now the pound is trading about 2% lower. Not a massive move, but it has traded down since Boris Johnson came out.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. It's much worse for the UK than for the EU.
How have you dealt with currency fluctuations broadly over the last 12 months or so, given how much we've seen when it comes to central bank moves, and obviously the Brexit debate is part of that?
Okay, due to the fact that we are European-based and we are with the euro, we have benefited a lot from the strength of the pound and the strength of the dollar. And, you know, fluctuation of currencies are part of the daily life. And as our business is local, and in each country we are operating on local currency, it doesn't make a lot of change if there is some fluctuation. It happens that this year we have benefited a lot from currency exchanges. 18% of our growth is due to currency exchanges.
Now, you've been involved in a very high energy mergers strategy over the last couple of years. Investors have been punishing that because they don't particularly see the results yet. Do you stick by that strategy? You are leaving in roughly a year, are you? Are you still leaving?
Absolutely. I made this clear commitment, and they will be leaving in May 2017.
Will this strategy pay off? You already have some of the highest operating margins in the sector.
Yes, and we will continue, and we will strengthen this margin. The market is punishing us because they don't see the result of the recent acquisition. But for years, all our acquisitions have worked extremely well, and they believe that they will see soon the result of this acquisition. And I believe that the market will be extremely happy